I'm wondering if you noticed anything like this. Traveling on an airline, and then some weird mix-up happens, your flight gets canceled, or they tell you that you weren't checked in, or for some reason you're not on this flight, or for some reason your flight's just gone. Have you noticed anything like that? Because I travel a lot, or at least I used to travel a whole lot. Well, right now we book a lot of travel, and we've noticed a few strange circumstances around having people fly out here. Only a couple of times, but enough that's made me question if something bad is happening to the airline industry that they're not telling us. And I will say this. Those that do not read the news beyond the national outrage cycle are likely oblivious to what is happening right now in the economy. It's entirely possible that something happens and we pull ourselves out of this tailspin. But to me, it looks like it's like a collapse in slow motion. The biggest news right now, we couldn't get in front of it. Spirit Airlines CEO explains what caused the carrier's meltdown. They've canceled 1,800 flights since Sunday due to a combination of staffing shortages, bad weather, and technology problem. Technology problem, I don't know what that is, but that could be the result of a staffing shortage. And so there's this story, it's been going on for now 5 days. Spirit Airlines been canceling flights. American Airlines apparently doing the same thing. Reports of fuel shortages at airports in the western United States. Now we're hearing that United Airlines is going to be mandating the vaccine for employees, which will, in my opinion, result in people quitting, period. This is absolutely dividing this country in two because people who aren't vaccinated, there's no convincing them for the most part. And I'm not going to try to convince anybody. I'm just saying you talk to your doctor about that. But I digress. I don't want to get into that. I want to talk about the lockdowns. 508 days to slow the spread. 508 days to slow the spread. The eviction moratorium illegally replaced. The unemployment bonuses for people. It's a slow motion collapse. And the people who aren't paying attention. That's the thing. Because what do I see? When you see someone tweet like, hey, like the mandates are bad, restrictions are bad, you get the tribal left just foaming at the mouth. These people have lost their minds. Now, they may have lost their minds, but I'm sure there's some logic to the system somewhere. I'm not saying it's good logic or it's fully formed rationale, but maybe it's a great reset kind of thing. That the elites are like, we're going to strangle out the economy for the next 2 years. So be it. Maybe that's on purpose or whatever. I have no idea, but I can tell you, the economy it's man. I don't think it's fair to say it's on fire. What's fascinating is that Republicans, according to Civics, overwhelmingly believe the economy is either very bad or fairly bad, whereas Democrats overwhelmingly think the economy is fairly good. Because these people are insane. I'm sorry. You have to be insane to think the economy is good right now, or you don't pay attention. And when they're giving you free money to buy stuff, you're probably thinking like, I don't know, I got stuff, I'm fine. Or perhaps, as Seamus said yesterday on Timcast IRL, that's the political landscape they want. That's the economy they want. Giving Democrats free money to extract resources from the system that they didn't contribute to. That's what they want, isn't it? I can already hear the left when they mention that red states, on average, get more funding from the federal government. Yeah, that's in the long term. I understand that. What I'm saying is if somebody, an individual, I don't care who they are, receives a check and did not do any work, they did not produce anything, and they go to a store and they buy a thing, they are extracting resources from the economy without replacing them. If that goes on for long enough, it is obvious what will happen. We are seeing fuel shortages. Wall Street Journal reporting airlines struggle with fuel shortages at some smaller Western U.S. airports. Every gallon of jet fuel saved is helpful, American Airlines tells pilots. I remember something like this. I worked for American Eagle Airlines, which is American's regional company. And I remember there was this big thing because gas prices got so high in the mid 2000s that they were telling the pilots could only use one engine for like taxiing and things like that. And they had to like save every drop. But I tell you this, the fuel shortages that are hitting the smaller airports right now, there is no sign of abatement. Let me explain. When I went to Tulare County years ago in the drought, the California drought, of which there's another massive drought hitting California, it was the smaller wells that went dry. So what happens is you've got all these big farms. And they have the resources to drill thousands, I'm talking 5,000 feet down into the earth looking for water. And they found it. And they pull that groundwater out, which has really devastating effects on the area because you've got land sitting on that water and it's pressurized. And then the land sinks when you pull the water out. For the smaller homes and smaller farms that didn't have the resources to dig beyond even 30 feet, they ran out of water. It was a canary in the coal mine, letting people know this is not a permanent solution. So what happened? Smaller houses ran out of water. Nonprofits had to bring in non-potable water so they could at least take showers. They had to go to churches in order to get drinking water. That's the canary, right? When we see these smaller airports and they're saying we have fuel shortages and we're canceling flights, and now we're seeing major airlines, larger national airlines, including American Airlines, canceling flights. I hope you're paying attention to what's happening. Because, as I stated, maybe, there's going to be a turnaround. Things are going to start coming back. But people aren't working. Now, there is one report, because I want to be fair. This is from NBC News. Economy added 943,000 jobs last month versus the estimate for 850,000. Okay, well, that's above expectations, which is good news. I will say these expectations are, I don't know what you really get out of them, because what does the estimate really mean? Is it good that we added almost 1 million jobs? Yes. All right, that's fantastic. I'm wondering where these people are. Where is everybody? Are they really just sitting home and not working, or walking around doing nothing? Like, what are they doing? This is the weirdest thing to me, because people got to be somewhere, don't they? I guess not. I guess they can sit in their houses and collect unemployment and not pay rent. So the economy is just floating face down in the water. If something isn't done, we are going to see serious economic collapse, more than we've seen already. Because the way I've explained it before, it's the freight train, right? When you stop a freight train dead in its tracks, all the other carts get derailed, they flip up in the air and things like that. Because energy's got to go somewhere. It can't just be stopped. Well, that massive derailment, you can't just put those train carts back on the track. In fact, many of those carts are destroyed completely in the collision. In fact, stopping the train dead in its tracks could destroy the engine itself. And then the economy cannot recover. And I fear that's where we may actually be. I'm not confident that we're going to be able to pull out of this, especially considering the divide between those who support the lockdowns, support government mandates and authority, and those who don't. Let me show you this tweet from Libby Emmons. Libby is she's with Post Millennial. She is, I'm not sure her position. I think she's editor-in-chief. Sorry, Libby. Well, we're having her on the show, so I'll get your title right next time. She says, requiring New Yorkers to show medical papers to allow them to participate in society will be the end of my relationship with New York City. As of yesterday, I am actively trying to leave the only place that's ever in all my life felt like home to me. What's fascinating is that this tweet got ratioed to an extreme degree. I think it had like 10,000 replies and only 2,000 retweets. I understand and agree with Libby Emmons. Now, the funny thing is, this tweet was screen grabbed and posted to Reddit, where they mocked and derided Libby, saying that she was an anti-vaxxer. I thought that was funny because I know that she's vaccinated. And then she followed up later saying, and yes, I've been fully vaccinated. She's taking a moral position on mandating papers. And I'm seeing all of these people say things like, vaccine passports have always existed. Look at this. For F's sake, quit acting like it's a brand new thing for Americans to be asked for vax records. Jeez. To go to the movies? Yes, it is. To go out to eat, to go shopping? Yes, it is a new thing. Now, I've stated before, I have a vaccine passport for when I was traveling internationally. They give you the vaccine card so you can show proof when you're entering certain countries. This is a moral position. This is about whether or not you will support the government creating medical segregation. And I'll give you a good example of my problem with it. There was a tweet where someone said, either you support this or you want people to die. And I was just like, imagine the kind of person who is going to be telling people to expose their private medical history, their underlying health conditions. Imagine if back in the day they demanded that everybody imagine now, everybody who's got cancer, you've got to now wear a cancer card on your chest so we know. Otherwise, you're going to go to a bar and they're going to be like, you got your vaccine? No, I have cancer. I can't get it. Sorry, too bad. Get out. Is that it? Some kind of weird, creepy eugenics system? There was I think some some athlete, I'm not sure. And he said something like in an interview that they asked if he was vaccinated, and he said that's a little bit too personal. And so people are like, oh, come on, you're discouraging people from getting the vaccine. It's like, dude, what if the guy's got some kind of underlying health condition he doesn't want you to know about? And now he's either got a choice to lie or deny, or just say, it's private, I don't want to talk about it. Now, here's the point. Libby is an influential individual, a producer, leaving the city due to, moral differences. How much do you want to bet? The people who are willing to stay are also the people who are collecting a lot of these unemployment checks. The people who are also not going to be working for the most part. So New York will be what? A city of people who don't work and get free money from the government and then what? Extract it from you? It's like an inversion almost of what the trope is about red states getting more money from the federal government. The people who produce, the people who work are being struck down and booted out. And the mindless drones who think the economy is good right now are naming and shaming people who take issue with authoritarianism. 508 days to slow the spread, my friends. Here we go. From timcast.com, diner closes. Fined $400K for violating COVID-19 rules, closes permanently. Still need a better headline on that one, guys. I should probably just go in and fix it. The Washington Eatery was once referred to as a flashpoint for COVID rebellion by local news outlets. Spiffy's, a 50-year-old diner, 50 years, is being erased. It's being shut down because the economy has been smacked with a sledgehammer. It's a cultural revolution, isn't it? Cultural revolution. There's serious and stark dramatic changes. Our longstanding institutions are being crippled and overwritten. And now I'll be the first to say we are culturally stagnant. No joke. Same old movies, reboots, remakes, adaptations, the same songs played every single year. But just because we're not getting new content and people aren't experimenting doesn't mean you need a purge of diners and old ideas. No, you just need people to make better things and stop chasing the lowest common denominator. Here's what happens, though. This diner refused to shut down during the restrictions. You know what eventually got it? Staff shortages. I got to tell you, it really does feel like I have to make a few assumptions. Are the people who run the government really, really dumb, or are they midwits who can at least form a plan? I'm not even saying brilliant. Is it on purpose or an accident? Think about what happens. They say 15 days to slow the spread. That was Trump's plan. 15 days to slow the spread turns into 508. And you know what? They'll say, yeah, but the restrictions ended in May. That the slow the spread. No. They were still giving the unemployment checks, and there's still a moratorium on evictions. Well, it ended, and then Biden created a new one. That is still COVID emergency restrictions put in place. A restriction on employers and landlords, preventing the economy from kicking back into high gear. It's fascinating. I see these articles saying the economy is doing better than ever. It's growing so quickly. So here's what I mean about is it on purpose or an accident? You have to know that saying 15 days to slow the spread would just destroy the economy with like a sledgehammer to the face. That's what's funny. Is that was Trump. Trump wanted to be like, oh, the economy is doing great. Well, bro, you're the one. It was your plan, your admin. You took the sledgehammer to the economy. Trump wants credit for that. I'm not going to give it to him. He had credit for 2019. No joke. And I was hoping that because of COVID, it was a one-off. But now look what's happened. It didn't. It's just endless chaos. It's an addiction. When the restrictions were lifted, but they kept the unemployment in place, this is keeping people from working. They have to know that, right? I mean, it's been said over and over and over again. You give someone free money, they don't work. Why would they? Why would anybody? Now, to be fair, so many of them will work just on things that don't produce. They're not going to make things of value for the most part. I think it might spur some experimentation, which can be a good thing, but at what cost? So it is hard. It is tough, right? You have a lot of people doing the same old trash, people working garbage jobs that we don't need fast food restaurants, my friends. We do not need fast food. I know. I'll say for Chick-fil-A, delicious. I love Chick-fil-A. It really is high quality stuff. But you know what? We don't need all of this fast food everywhere. I understand it's convenient, it's cheap. And a lot of people say, like, when you're on the road and you got to work really hard. Okay, well, here's the point. Kiosks. We need people to start thinking outside the box. So maybe this jump start could be a good thing in terms of cultural stagnation. But then why would they keep it up for 508 days while we're seeing airlines basically business-wise in flames? People don't fly. I look at everything that's happening, right? Doesn't it feel like it's just so darn convenient? Oh, you can't travel anymore? You need a vaccine passport to travel to, like most countries. When you get there, you got to quarantine for several days. It's like they're making it as hard as possible to do any basic functions that we used to do. That's why a lot of people think it's more about climate change. I'm not saying I know that to be true, but the New York Times ran an article saying the Earth is healing. And I think the World Economic Forum even stated, like, the lockdowns are helping the Earth heal itself. Maybe it really was that bad. Do you guys know about windshield phenomenon? People have noticed that they don't hit bugs anymore because the bug populations have been collapsing. It's freaky stuff. Now, I'll ask you this, because I mentioned this before, and I asked it of Alex Jones, and I think it's an important philosophical question. What if with the bug populations, the dead zones, the droughts, we really are facing some impending doom? Let me ask you this question. Comment. Let me know what you think. No joke. If you were given real proof, like legit direct evidence, not from someone, in the mainstream media. I mean, like, you actually saw something trustworthy and you knew it said legitimately the activity of human beings is wiping out the bottom of the food chain or parts of the food chain, which is causing ecological collapse. And we have to shut down the economy for 5 years. You will be required to eat as little as possible, not go out, not drive, not fly. Otherwise, the entirety of the planet will just turn to brown, to dust. If that was definitive, would you then say all of this is worth it? Legit question. In my opinion, if someone came to me with definitive proof and I trusted it, and they were like, guys, if we don't actually just shut the economy down and have people just go back to basics, gardening and buying as little as possible, the planet's going to just collapse. It's going to erode. There's an imbalance, because you need to understand the environment is not like, people like to point out that most of the planet is forest and nature, but there's a balance. There's a chemical balance. So if someone proved it to me and I really believed it, I'd absolutely be willing to sacrifice for the betterment of all mankind. I think most people would, right? The problem is we don't trust these people. And why should we? Why should we trust them on anything, literally anything? After years of screaming and lying about Trump. If you think that lying to people is the path forward, then congratulations. This is what you'll get. People who don't trust you, who will rebel against you, you will lose control. Honesty is the best policy, right? Take a look at Australia. Their vaccination rates are 16.3%. In the United States, 50.2%. Wow, America. A lot of people believe just whatever they hear. But these are mostly the people who think the economy is also doing well. But what happened in Australia? Well, the draconian lockdowns, the lies and manipulations lead to people saying, I don't care. I don't trust you. We're done. That's it. No one will believe them. They wanted to play dirty games because of Trump. They want us to believe that the end is nigh and all that stuff. Sorry, I don't believe you. Don't. I would like to. I really would. I'd like to believe it. I think climate change is a problem. We've heard, AOC and Greta Thunberg, like, we have 12 years to the apocalypse. We've also heard scientists say that's just not true. Why should I believe the people buying beachfront properties when they tell me this stuff? Sorry, not going to happen. So I'd like to, but I can't. And who could? You've given us no good evidence. And the only evidence you've given us is that you're liars. You're manipulators. You cheat. You treat people like stupid, like morons. And there are a lot of morons that I get. Like I mentioned, a lot of people who just seem to think the economy is doing fairly good is insane to me. Have you been to a restaurant? Have you gone to fast food? Have you left your own home? Maybe not. Maybe they're too scared. Businesses have shuttered. Staff shortages are running amok. Well, staff shortages, a great problem. If these people still think that things are going well, I don't know, man. A lot of people have been saying, I've been getting messages from people like telling people to prep is a good thing. And I'm like, oh, definitely. But one thing that makes things worse is panic buying stuff, like going to the store and just filling up like 20 carts and all that stuff and taking all the mayonnaise. Now, you don't got to do that. But I do think it's fair to point out that you should be prepared to be responsible for yourself. So I'll say this to Libby, because I've been saying get out of the cities now. We had one gentleman who wrote a book called, we had a homesteader on the show. He said it was not time, on Tim SRL, not time to leave the cities just yet. I disagree. I think you should have left a long time ago. I said to get out when the riots got bad, when the cops then turned and started kneeling with the rioters. Remember that? Remember when the police took a knee for the rioters? And then the conservatives were like, back to blue, baby. And I'm like, okay, you'll see how that plays out for you in the long run. It was time to leave a long time ago. Now they're doing medical mandates. And you know what, to be honest, maybe that's their goal. They want you to leave the cities. Cities are big hubs of pollution. They want you to get away from the cities, find joy in walking around in a field, looking at stars and smile on your face. And they don't want you spending money and driving and flying. They want everyone to get back to basics, get back to equilibrium. Honestly, I'm all about that. I'm just not all about lying to people. I think you need to build a culture of honesty and integrity, but perhaps it's impossible. Because you see how many people are just willing to blindly believe whatever they hear. So the media can come out and say, everything's fine, shut up, and they'll go, okay. All right, well, I don't know how you deal with people like that. I really don't. I know how to be persuasive. I know how to communicate. But I think the problem is if you lie to people, then you'll end up with half saying you're liars, screw off. And if you're honest with people, the dumb people just do dumb things. So I don't know. I really don't. Here's what I can say, though. It is entirely healthier to be out of these cities, to have trees, to breathe fresh air, to eat good food right from your own garden, to raise your own animals and chickens. Get away from the cities. Get yourself a little bigger plot of land spread out. It's better that way. Lessen the impact that these cities have. New York's nasty. I left New York a long time ago. It's nasty. It's a nasty place. I really can't imagine why people want to go there. I remember wanting to be there, and it was nothing to do with nature. It was more of like seeking that great adventure. What does the big city have to hold? And then I quickly learned nothing. You walk around, everything looks the same. No animals. I mean, one time I saw a hawk near Union Square. That was cool. Everybody was like, oh, look, there's a hawk. Like, wow, we were so surprised an animal was in the city. Yeah. It was like walking around on the ground and everyone was like, oh, and then it flew away. And people were like, wow, like, what's it doing there? Man, I live out here. I see a deer. We've got like 4 or 5 deer in our yard every day. The same deer. They live here basically. And so we put out those little salt licks for them or whatever. We got chickens. We got wild turkeys walking around doing turkey stuff. Do you know turkeys can fly for short distances? Isn't that crazy? Man, get out of these cities. Find something more fun. Do you know what we do? We light a fire. We sit around. We make s'mores. It's so much fun to be away from these cities. Up, where I actually live, I have in West Virginia. The neighbors are all really nice. Everyone's living much, much simpler lives. So if you get away from this stuff, I think working remote is a good thing to the extent that it can be done. And I think people need to use less, reduce. There you go. Reduce, reuse, recycle. I'm all about it, right? I think people should, I think they should do better for themselves. And that's what it comes down to when it really comes down to everything. You know what? Screw the elites, screw the political class, all of these climate change people. Do it for yourself. Because I'm telling you, when you're out away from these cities, breathing fresh air, you're going to enjoy it. When you're getting exercise, you're going to enjoy it. I tell you this, when you exercise every day, for those that aren't aware, I'm sure a lot of you exercise every day. For those that don't, well, every day to within reason, you need rest days, right? Something happens where you just start feeling good every day. Because I've gone through these periods, right? I skated most of my life. It's very intense activity. And then starting a business means I have less time to exercise. And so I kind of fall off for a few months. And then you just feel sluggish and miserable and it hurts and And now I'm skating every single day again. And it's like $1,000,000. I just can't sit still. I got so much energy. It's fantastic. That's why you got to get away from these places. And you got to find something within you. People who go to these cities because they want to be a part of something else. I'm not all about that. That's what we see with these leftists. They just want to fit in. They want to do what they're told. Now you got to find it from within. You've got to focus on yourself. You've got to search your own mind and your own heart and your feelings and figure out what makes you happy. And you've got to, I tell you this, go into the middle of the woods and just sit down and just think and just chill and really think about what you're doing, why you're doing it, and what you want and what this world has to offer. I don't know what you're going to get out of these big cities. I'm not a fan. They're not all bad. You know, there's hubs of creativity, but at this point, it's just stagnation. Maybe that's just me. All my opinions. But I'll tell you this, man, if the airlines are falling apart, if there's food shortages and fuel shortages, and it really does get worse than it is now, you will be happy you took the leap sooner rather than later. Because you don't want to be in a city when the resources start running out. Look at what's happening in San Francisco. Thefts, muggings, robbery, all that stuff. Woman hang out at her car with some kind of like AK or rifle or whatever. Not that I have a problem with the right to keep and bear arms, just the brandishing it with bad trigger discipline and having it low ready. I'm like, she looks like she's ready to shoot somebody. So nah, none of that. But if you want to go out in the middle of nowhere and have a good time and be with your friends and find your community, I think that's fantastic. People need to figure that out. They do. I'll leave it there. Next segment's coming up at 1 p.m. on this channel. Thanks for hanging out, and I will see you all then.